All right, another late night edition of the Gym Teacher Dreams podcast. Ray is not here today. He might jump in. He's got his son's got baseball in two different teams, and so he's running all over the place. Like I said, he may stop in, but we got Coach Beinborn here, and we're going to talk some basketball. I haven't talked basketball in a while. Coach Conroy and myself and Ray talked some, and it didn't get on the podcast because I lost it. My computer, I ran out of room and it didn't get out there. So some of the stuff I'm going to discuss again because I'm a big Princeton guy. I love the offense. I think it's beautiful, but there are definitely some positives and negatives. We're going to get into that. I told Coach that I also have I call it hybrid, but it's just some modifications for me because for me, offense for me, our job as coaches, which right now, I'm not a coach, but coach forever, is get the ball in the hands of your best players and let them decide. Get guys, and not only get the best players, but get everyone else in a position for them to have success. Putting them in positions to fail. For example, a kid can't dribble with their left hand and have them come off a ball screen going left. That's not very good coaching. So the first topic that that I told him we were going to talk about is set plays versus motion. So, Coach, where are you?
I'm opposite of you.
You haven't heard me yet.
I think that with where I'm at is on a really probably this end of the scale as far as motion, and I have not always. I always have been, but I haven't always coached that way every year due to what our personnel is. And there's times where we've had to structure it more, and there's times where we have had IQs enough to be able to do some things that involve reads and teaching reads and so on. But I always like playing motion personally. I like playing up tempo. I like how our motion flows from our transition offense right into without, when I took over, one of the first things I said to all of our guards, I said, I don't want to hear it in open gym. Nobody says set it up anymore. We have 30-second shot clock. Yeah. Every time it takes us so long to get it across, we've now set it up. There's 15 seconds and we have to try to get them to score, and so I like to have the flow. I like to have sets. Don't get me wrong. We use them in certain situations. We use them in dead ball situations all the time. And we do, like you said, put all of them are with the purpose of getting certain people the ball and having certain people in certain areas to stretch the floor for our shooter. Our shooters stretch the floor, so it opens up this. But if they have to help, we'll always have the shooters in the right place. So I do like a balance. Clearly, last second plays. We have last second plays that we'll practice that we might not ever use, but they're there for those moments. And I don't believe in putting players in a position to just do something I drew up at the moment to win a game. So big on those in those situations, our need plays.
Right. Now, do you practice them like, I would, right before we'd take a water break, we'd run a special situation, end of the game, out of bounds, or do you have kind of set? You might have a set period, but how do you get those type of plays in?
It's something that we'll often run towards the end of the practice after something very, we're getting up and down, they're tired, because I want them to do it while they're tired to keep the focus, and then we'll do it obviously when we're doing any situational final 2 minutes left and this, and when we comes to that final play, throw in those situationals and run them. So we try to do it again, walk through it on game days or the practice the night before, and make sure that we practice on a regular basis just to go through it with defense, and then put them in those situational scrimmages to have to do it live. And again, what we focus on is making sure we just get the shot. It's not making you're gonna make some, you're gonna miss some, but let's get the shot and make the right play. So
Yeah. And my answer is, when I first started, I was Bill Self high low, loved it.
yeah,
Didn't have quite the personnel for a couple of years, and then took head coach to girls, and I had two really tall girls, and it works pretty well. But one of them got hurt and wasn't able to play the rest of her career. And that kind of put a damper on it. But that's where I started. I was a set guy. I took over some programs where there were only one or two people that could handle it. So I really, tried, like I said, put the ball in their hands. Um, and then, it was one of those when you take over a comprehensive program, people are waiting for you to, have them run something. And I would
yeah,
just tell them, I said, listen, right now, it's more important that you teach them what a down screen is, how to come off a screen, how to read a screen, rather than running how to run a pick and roll, rather than you running some motion offense that I have. And so when I became assistant coach for a few years, we ran his stuff, and while on my off time, I really looked into the Princeton offense. I mean, first off, I just thought it was beautiful, and
yeah.
it's something that I thought that I could fit in with the program, But so to answer the question, I've always been more of a set guy, and motion was a little bit different, but I think once again, you can run it. You've still got to run that motion to where the ball's in the right people's hands, like I said. So, so I wouldn't say it's a true motion, but I went to the Princeton offense just because I wanted something to help IQ. I didn't want to have to overcoach, micromanage every possession because the
Right.
kids didn't understand the game. And so I thought, I liked it, and it's something that it allowed you to put a lot of a different basic basketball, the pick and rolls, the dribble handoffs, come learn reading screens. So that's why I kind of, and all of that, I decided this is that I wanted to do. I believed in it. And we definitely had some drawbacks with it, so I think both of us are in the same thing. I mean, I think basketball it has to be up and down. When we score 30 points a game around here right now. That's our games are 30s to 40s. And yeah, and I coach, and
Yeah.
when someone said, your style of basketball, no, 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 no. That's not my style of basketball. There's a couple reasons. See, once again, we're off a little bit. Is one, coaches prepare their teams better than what they had, 10 years ago, 5 years, 10 years especially. And defense is taught so much better than what it was when you and I played. So I think that's part of the reason. And two, how they just they don't go out and play. They don't understand the game enough. So what,
Right.
from your standpoint as a college, what do you see?
I mean, I would agree with when again, I hate to be that when we were kids and
Right,
when we were
right.
coming up, but you could drive by parks and there were people playing, and that was in most cities, and you could be um in that several parks. It's hard to find a group of kids and whoever getting a run in at a park anywhere that I drive by anymore. And I think that there's so much organized. It's when it's structured, but AAU, not that it's structured, but still they're it's not the same as you just are playing, whether it's a backyard, an alley, a park, a gym, the little shed for a gym that somebody has, or people that we have a player that has a hoop it's all set up in a barn, and so when you just get people together and play, there are things that you and watch. I think watch. I don't think anybody spends enough time watching full games because everything's in you know bits now, and
Right.
so they don't retain watching a game and how Michael went through. For us, Mike went, yes, he might have ended up with this and hit this game winner, but he was 7 of 23 going into this stretch and had a rough night and was beat up, and but also came through and overcame, versus highlights, oh, he's good all the time. And
Yeah.
I think there's a difference of learning, getting that basketball IQ, getting the feel that kids. That's just, I think, a little bit different. The defensive part, oh, I mean, I think back to what we were taught, and yes, positioning and help, but the exact way that we have you put your feet and hands, and even with our thumbs, and where this is, where we're looking, where all the little things now, the details that we teach, that then was just, okay, here, ball's here, you're here on the line, up the line, be on the string. It was just, it was
Yeah.
different. It was different.
And now it's with the offenses, there's so many, more offense that people do. It is
Yeah.
tough to play defense if you're not prepared to play a team, especially a team that said runs a lot of screens. You're in trouble. We play. There's a team, like coach. We have a couple of coaches that has Santa's Christmas list of set plays. I mean, and they just, and if you don't have an idea of how to get through a screen, how to communicate, it's over. And so, yeah, defensively, coaches are doing such a great job, but also offenses are so diverse that it could give you trouble. So you spend a lot of time in practice preparing. And I do think in the season, it's about the team. If you want to get better, off season's huge. You still have your skill development, but you do have to spend a lot of time with that, preparing your team in a team setting, because that's what the season is. So,
Right.
yeah, but when it comes down to is this, and I don't, we always heard, defense, offense wins games, defense wins championships. But if you can't put that damn ball in the basket, it don't matter how good your defense is. If you're not gonna win. If you have less points than the other team, you don't win.
Right. And I can't say I made this up, but I've been saying for at least the last 8 years. Anytime anybody brings that up, I said, "Do you know where that quote came from?"
I do not
You
know.
know what?
Nope.
It was Bear Bryant. It was so okay. So listen, we're talking about an era of football where you can literally win 3-0. You can win 6-0, 7-0, 7-3. Football, you still have that ability to hold teams. Now, offense is getting more dynamic and it's harder to shut teams down. But defense wins championships in football. You have to defend in basketball to win that, yes. But scoring is still ultimately, you have to score more points than your opponent. And defense comes down to what we teach, and heart and effort, athleticism, and length, right? And all the little effort things that come with that. But when you're talking about countering that at this point, with all the different offenses and all that, I mean, everything, it just, now something I was getting distracted by, but this is a whole different thing when you're talking about all these plays and sets. It's now, how do you teach to defend it? Is it memorizing all their plays and teaching that to your teams, or is it working on actions? Now, I know that's a side conversation, but I just had to.
No, that's a great point, because, a couple of coaches that we coached against, they knew our plays better than what some of our kids did. And I don't understand how they can know all their stuff and then know all of our stuff. And then if we called something different, 5 sets of eyes looked at coach like, "Coach, what's this?" Even if you just changed the name of it. So that's memorization, where I'm with you. I think we went over a few plays, but we taught how to defend the action. That was more important to me than knowing the play, because now we're getting so much of your scouting on video. You don't always get to hear the name of the play. So even made it more, if your person scouting or was loud, whatever, you couldn't get the name, you really just taught the action, which I'd rather do anyway.
Yep. Here are actions we're going to see. We work on defending handoffs. We work on defending ball screens, pin downs. Every different action, UCLA cuts, flex, of course. But here's how we do it. Footwork. Here's where you are as the helper. Here's how you are as the receiver of the screen. This is how we fight through it. And again, can't always be this way, but number one option, second option. But we're not doing this all the way around both of them. You know, it's here
Yeah.
through. So, but you can't always go, you know, depending on positioning, you have to be able to adjust. And so we're strict with it, but yet two options always.
Yeah. And when we talk, we'll talk defense sometime, but Coach Conroy's got to join that one. He loves his defense.
Awesome.
So I know he and I, you know, even just teaching how to defend a flex cut, totally different, both effective, you know. So,
Yes.
but we're, like I said, so when I said, you know, hybrid, the first thing with how I viewed Princeton, I wasn't big into the exchanges, the handoffs, running time. I wanted to get into it, you know, so we talked about my last year is, you know, once again, I did scoring 30 points is just, ugh. So we wanted to get up and down court, you know, Lakers basketball. You know, I was a big Showtime guy back in the day. Get the ball, fill the lanes. The post players, if the guards don't get there, the post players are going, you basically got 5 guys getting to the baseline and then, you know, kind of, and seeing what happened type of thing. Now, it didn't work, you know, because the game's so slow, but that's what I wanted to do is just get up and down and play basketball. That's the way it's meant to be played. You know, this physical stuff, yeah, we teach it because you have to, but that's not the way basketball should be played. Best athletes in the world are playing this sport for a reason.
Yep.
So anyway,
Correct.
with the Princeton offense, the first thing is if you don't have guys who can make shots, you don't have guys who handle the ball, it's very difficult. Right?
Yep.
Amen. Second thing is once we get into it, I want my shooters standing ready to catch. And that's another thing where Coach Conroy and I he had some discussions. He wants guys moving. I want it's hard shooting the ball coming off a screen. You know, I spent 3 years of college doing that.
Yes.
So when I talk about it, I'm going to end up with guys in the corner, and they got to be able to make shots.
Yeah.
And if not, we're in big trouble because a lot of offense have gone to, right? You watch the NBA, you got guys in the corner, you've got a high ball screen, you know, and now, you know, lately I've been watching a lot of curl cuts, you know, curl cut off it, whether the post player is curling or you curl around the post player, either get a shot or to get that post player open in that mid-range for them to do work. So, you know, I think that the Princeton offense can not only be a good motion, but I can ISO my best player or my best players against some of your defenders to score. So I'm going to pause here for a second so I can get the camera and I got marker board up there for a reason. All right. So like I said before, I've skipped all of the ways to get into the offense, you know, like I said, and we've tried them all, but I don't want, you know, Princeton offense was set for a team that maybe was not, you know, I wouldn't say not as good, but maybe not as good, and they wanted to run some time clock and then take advantage of them, you know, keep the games close, and you know, right. and you know, so. But I want to score off it. I think so. The first thing is, if you run, I changed it to where, and I'm going to talk about this. The one man, for example, let's go to the chin first. So you got the chin series. You got the point series, and so those are the 2 main ones, right? I started with the point series, and it was tough because I'm at the varsity level, giving the ball to 5 men who've never passed the ball before.
Right.
And so so the lower levels were stuck with it. I had to go something different just for personnel reasons. The next year said, okay, I like the chin offense better because we just don't have that 5 men I see coming up and be able to do that. Well, if you don't have the good personnel, we just pass around the perimeter. And so I kind of, the flare screen, I'm not a big fan of the flare screen off the offense too. So that's kind of where we're at. But for us, you know, I'm going to, if your one man can't shoot the ball, he can't be the person that ends up in the corner, right? So if you just passed it here, okay, this sets up everything, right? That chin cut, if it's done right, that sets up the whole offense, because we're going to set that up. He's got to step to him, and it's got to be a back screen. It's got to be a back screen, and 5-man person has to help. Remember that? That's foreshadowing, I think it's called in English. But the 5 defenders has to help. But a lot of times they're so used to going over top of this, they get real lazy on that. I want to run you. If you're guarding me, I'm going to run you right into that screen. And if you don't run into that screen, you're going to have to go really wide to try to get there, and your 5-man's going to have to help, which means then your guy that is guarding this 5 can't help anything else. Okay? So that's the main thing is this first cut has to be right. You have to run that person off every single time. It's like a boxer, right? You're just going to keep jabbing, hitting the body, and they get sick of it. Then they're going to stay away from it. The reason
but you have to be efficient with it every time. That's the key.
Yep.
Like a boxer, it has to be efficient every time.
Yeah. And one of the things is all your drill work, you have to work on it, because this person has to be able to read it, not when they're open, it's when they're coming right there. And that's one thing that kids struggle with is they wait to see when they're open rather than as they're getting open. Once again, you should be able to tell right there if they're going to be open, right as they come off here. Defender that's guarding that person, and if that person got screened. So I got to lead that person into it, right? And because if you throw it late, bad things happen.
Right.
Now, as that's occurring, the 3-man has gotten to their corner. And that's where Coach Conroy says, well, my guy's going to stand right there. He's right, but that's a good angle to kick it to the shooter.
Yep.
So that's where I am. So after that, then I got to slow down my drawings. So 3, 2's got the ball. 1-man's come here. All right, 5, and we've got our 4, which then comes the flare cut. Now, numbers aren't a big deal to me because, once again, hopefully this guy can shoot the ball.
Right.
I really tried to teach him how to read this. A lot of teams just run it as a set play. You're always going to bump back or flare. And so we talked about this. When I step to you, how do you defend it, if I may ask?
How am I going to defend that cut?
Knowing that it's a potential flare cut.
Right. We always chase every flare screen. We chase. Okay, so you're receiving it.
Do you go over top of it then, or do you go underneath it?
Nope, we chase over top. So I will chase you, and then our screener's defender is dropping to make sure to take anyway if they curl to the basket. But staying in line, if you're the screener, I'm not moving out here and leaving you cutting to the basket. I'm just backing up, taking away your cut. They stay with them.
So your screen going to be here, and when I step, you're going to stay above the screen. That's the read, right? So for us, when we did that, okay, we double cut. So that's what I taught, that if you were going to muscle me, or if you're going to stay, first off, if you're physical, we're just going to double cut. So that person's going to get out of there, okay, and then we're going to double cut. But if you're chasing, that is, the last year we decided, get it. And this is where the flare is real difficult, because that person has to read the cutter and then has to dribble up to get an angle to pass the ball to the flare if you're chasing, like you said. Because if you stay here and you're chasing, that's a good angle to deflect and get you up for a layup. And this is where the flare kind of hurt us, because you've got to look, boom, now you've got to dribble up to get that angle. But if we can get it to you and you haven't got there because you're chasing, we're attacking right there. That's where my last year I said, we're not reading this. if they chase it, we're going to get it and just attack. We've got a shooter here. We've got all this open space for that guy to go. So that's the first thing that we did is if we faced a team that chased it, we were going to get it and go. I took away the read because they were indecisive.
Yeah. Which is common.
Yes.
It's common except for elites, and elites are different at every level, but elites are able to make reads, are able to, yes, but not everybody on your team ever is going to, unless you're at an elite level.
Right, right. Now, if you were able to chase us and still beat us there, we were effed, right? You're effed if you can chase us and still get there. Now, what other teams did was this guy went under here and would try to beat us to the spot.
Right.
Which meant then that's a scouting thing. If they're going under, because when you take your step there and you can't read where they're going right up that step, if they're going to chase or if they're going to go underneath it.
Right.
So that's a scouting, but if they're chasing where they're going to try to beat you there, it should be a bump back. That should be just a bump back, kick it back, 3-ball. If they're going to go underneath it, because the 5-man, as you said, is sagging there, that's a bump back 3. You got to do it if they're going to go underneath it.
Yep. Yep. Turn and rescreen. Yep.
Yes. And then if they switch it, which if you ever watch, there's the Air Force, I think, running the Princeton offense, just switching is just a beautiful thing. But so now we're still into this flare screen. Now if I come, I'm sorry, that was a different part. So anyway, now if I can't get it and I bump back, no shot, we'll just reset and run it again, right?
Right.
And so those are the biggest options that we tried to do off that is the initial part. Now, excuse me. So let's see here. Reset. Let's get some guys at different spots. Because we've got to try to find guys that can shoot the ball. Let's say now, oops, sorry. Four-man. Okay, now I'm gonna send my 4-man to the cut. So we're gonna send post player there. Okay, now I've got my 1 going to be involved with stuff. So if they don't get it, we said we're gonna flare. Okay, and we do pass it, doesn't get it, reset, run it again. We keep running that. You got that point, right? Yep. Run it. And that's the problem is also what we did is if your 5-man didn't step out to help, we would just kick it to our 5-man and shoot that mid-range jump shot or 1 dribble attack the rim. So so we had that flare, stepped out, stepped right to the ball. That person got out, we hit there, and we would give and go sometimes, or we just flatten out and let everyone go. So that's what we did. Now, with this, what would you do? And where I said, change it a little bit. 1, if you put your best player at the high post. So let's say that it had to be your 4, like an AD. So that 4 that can shoot, can pass, can do everything.
Yeah.
Because then, let's see here, your 5-man can't shoot. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I think if your 5-man cannot shoot, not a 3-pointer, maybe mid-range, but this is what you do if this person cannot shoot. All right, so we pass it here. 5-man's going to come off it. That person is going to get out, right, well, maybe not that far, but it's going to get out of the way, and now we're going to pop that 4-man up. That 4-man,
best player.
That person helps. That's 3-ball, right?
Yeah.
If the person, as you said, is efficient and makes that person guard them, that's pop. We've got the spacing here. that's a open look for your stud, right?
Yep. Yep.
So then as that 5-man, if we don't get a shot, and I'm kind of bouncing around here because that's kind of what I do, is that
Oh, I follow you that way, so it's perfect.
good. So now we've got our 4-man here, we've got our 5-man, and we're gonna get him about mid here. We've got what, 2 was over here? Yeah, right? 2, 3,
Yep. 1.
1. That's right. I should have looked before. No, 1 was here. Yeah, 3,
Yep.
2,
Yeah,
and then 5 there. So I love the split screen. You know, when we kind of talk about, and we're going to talk about it now, is there is nothing better to me than watching Golden State drop the ball to Draymond Green, who's a pretty good passer, and the Splash brothers running a split screen.
Yeah.
You know, so for those who are watching this, they're thinking Princeton offense, the splits. So what we're going to do is this person is going to come at him, and we're going to get to this point. And I started it, and this is where we started with this. I did all the research trying to figure out, well, how do they read it? So this person, I said, start with, dictates it. He or she is going to be the one that's going to decide. So if I went to screen and I did not see you in my peripheral vision, I'm going to be the cutter. This person's going to bump back.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what happened was, once again, just because we just implemented it, it took too long. We had to wait for them because it just took them too long to decide that.
Yeah.
We said, okay, we'll let both of you read it. You know, and it's okay. But so when this person came over, it doesn't work if they don't come together.
Right.
And that was another issue, is I could not get to one player in particular, but you have to come together for this to work.
And communicate.
Yeah, are you talking offensively and defensively? But we're
on offense. Yeah, we have to come together, but we have to talk through it too.
Right. And so what I also said, that if I went to set that screen initially, if I came in and I set my feet, that meant I'm bumped back and you were going to cut. It just took too long. Or if I, went to set like a slip screen where I kind of set my feet, but then I was the cutter. So we went to, okay, read your defense. Because most of it, they were like this. It was, they were just a shelter, which I don't understand, because so if they're both sagging there, boom, whichever, bump back. That's one thing that I still watch the film. I don't understand how if they're sagging, taking us away, how we didn't get the bump back. And we worked on it in drill work. We worked on it. But once, as you said, and I know this is a tough offense to learn and be good at it in a year. And 2 years. Yeah. But if they sag off, so what we're trying to get for the split screen is for the defense and not to know what the heck's going on, right?
Yep.
So we run that split screen, and so there's room for your 4 to go, right? So we're still that person attack. We've got our split screen here. Now let's say if here the 2 goes, 1 man bumps back, ball screen.
Yep.
Now, where it's different is this 5-man would be in the deep corner, and you would send them opposite so that you had all this room like we talked about before.
Yep.
I'm going to run this person like a hammer screen or even a flare screen. So when this person comes off this ball screen, this person's going to kind of back screen because my person might be helping, and now my 2 had kind of stepped up. It's going to drop to the corner. So now we have that hammer action or that back, a flare off of it. So now so we've got ball screen, 4 is going to roll, 2 is going to pop back out. I don't know what the official name for it is, but I call it weak action. This is my second favorite thing, is coming off the ball screen, come back, reverse it, drop it in the post.
Yep.
Because this person, most people are going to either hedge or even soft hedge. And so if it's done right, you're going to keep that person occupied, and now there's no one there. And if the help's going to come from the corner, well, that's supposed to be a person who can knock that shot down. And if it's the 5-man, they'll step to the ball for a layup.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So that's, if I ever coach again, I'm going to try to get somewhere where we're going to put the ball in that person's hand and let them go. Now, doesn't work, where we can get right back into it. 4-man pops up and we're into it. Where I talked about the 5-man is if someone else cuts, they become the post player.
Right.
But you've got to find something that a non-shooter can be effective at doing.
Yes. That's in these days, the way the game's played, that's the hardest part with any offense at this point. It is hard unless they're huge. You know,
Yeah.
You can dribble drives great for somebody that stands above everybody, can catch up here and finish at the rim and clean up offensive weak side boards. If they can't shoot, but they have to be, if they're smaller and they can't rebound and they're not a threat on that weak side, you can't run it. But there's very few things now that they just won't guard you. That's the thing. You have 5s that aren't threats. So now you have, well, again, that's a whole different thing to get into.
Right.
But that's a problem. That's an issue in a lot of offenses. So you have to find ways to make them effective.
I mean, it's got to that point where and most time it's a big, let's say it's a big, you just put them right here, right? And they're there. Right. Any offense opposite. Where you end up, yeah.
Horseshoe action.
Opposite, they're going to end up opposite where you'll have a shooter here, and once again, I can attack. They have to make a decision, right? That's what you do. And that's what we did against zone too, is we tried to get to that point on the backside where we got this zone guy had to make a decision where I had to rotate here, kick it out there. If I stayed too wide, we dropped it in there. So, to me, that's good basketball. But we have to find somewhere to do for everyone to have success.
Yep.
And the last thing, but the Princeton offense, you have to be able to run both. You can't just run the chin because once again, coaches are too good. They'll take it away. They'll take it away. And we never got to implementing that, with that. So now let's say same thing. And as we started, I said before, like the Bill Self high-low, and if you just ran the Princeton, the 1-man ended up in the corner. If 1 man can't shoot, you're in big trouble.
Right.
That's where we have it. So now I said, okay. And we would set something like this. 5-man once again. Let's say we keep the 5-man in just right now. And now we're going to dribble. I'm going to wave this guy out so that now break up. Now the 1-man is going to be involved again.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than him just standing in the corner. This should be your best ball playing handler, and you want to get. So this is set up to the point, and we're going to run away for all you away. So this is away in a point series. And so now we're going to run that split screen with the 1 and a 3. 4 has to be a shooter over. So they're going to drop down, run that split screen here with these 2. And the same thing with the action I just showed, right? So the dribble ball handling. So one of them, let's say this guy went, this guy popped out. Same thing. Passed it to him. Or you could dribble handoff, but once again, the purist of the Princeton, it's a pass and then go set the ball screen.
Right.
So then it's the same action that we just did. We showed you where I combined them. But which one is more difficult to defend? I know the chin series or this point away series?
Well, if you're talking your best player, okay, you said put your best player at that chin spot, right? That high post.
Yeah.
I think that's harder to guard. And the reason is, if put me in that free throw line area, and I have the ability to shoot it from there, get to the rim. I can, again, not just shoot it from there, but can create a shot,
Right.
whether it's a quick hard dribble, step back. If I have the ability to do all of that and make good decisions and find open people as I draw, that is impossible to guard at that point because your health is compromised when you have the ball in that spot. I don't care what defense you're running. It's the same with man. It's always the zone principle. Get it in that middle. But you do that thing to a man offense, where's your help side? And that's the biggest struggle that people have, that a lot of players have when you teach certain things defensively, is when that ball is a high post, a Bill Self type high-low offense.
Right.
I mean, we just go, obviously, the two side. We take the person from the corner because there's help on the wing that's built in for you. So, but where is weak side right there when the ball's in
because
the middle?
one of the reasons, let's talk about that a little bit, is one of the reasons the high-low can be so efficient and good is when the ball's at the top, okay, and you've got here, and now it's the same thing, you've got shooters in the corner, where is the help going to come? When the ball's at the top, and he's going to be way higher. Sorry, I can't do that. If I'm going to teach the high-low, he's going to be poster. He's going to be up higher so he can spin and lob it, right? When the ball's here, this is the toughest place to help anywhere.
Right.
You know, and because one, that it's a tough angle, and you come here, it's an easy angle to pass the ball anywhere. Yeah, I know I'm short a guy. And two, if you can't keep the guy in front of you, for example, if I kick whoever this is, if I can't keep this one guy or whoever it is in front of me from the top, once again, nowhere to get help. If you can't keep them from this lane, you're in trouble. You better find something else to do.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the same thing as the high-low. It's the same thing as putting your best player at the top there. And that best player has to have some grit because he or she has to be willing to set that nasty screen for that chin cut to get to set it all up.
But you know what else you need with that player? If they don't have as much grit as you want, bottom line, if they're your best player and they're a scorer, all you sell it on is that you'll get more open if you set this. And guess what? And more points because of it. Oh, okay. And they're gonna do it. It's just,
you know, and once again, it's way effective. You know, you put your best player coming off that flare, that's effective too. But like I said, the more I watch, like you just said, if I can get my best player to set a good screen and catch it here with spacing here, they're in big trouble. There's nowhere to come to help.
Yeah.
If you set a good screen, layup, oh no, now I have to help. 3-ball.
Right.
I'm going to help, going to come flying at you, attack the rim. You know, you're it's just outflanking them if you put your best player there.